Hi, welcome to lesson 5 of this series. Today we are looking at how humans affect landscapes. So if you remember the last few lessons, we've looked at physical processes, we've looked at tectonics, we've looked at glaciation, we've also looked at weathering and the role of climate, and we've also in the first lesson looked at geology and how that affects different landscapes. Now we're going to look at what humans do, and this is a brief overview. Please copy down the title and the keywords. On the keywords, the word forestry comes up. That's different to forests. So forests can be natural, but forestry is about how humans use and manage these areas of forests or areas of trees. What we're going to do now is a quick recap of what we did last lesson. So please pause the video in a moment and then try and match up the numbers with these keywords at the bottom. Okay, number 1 was our clay veil. 2 was tectonic uplift, that process. 3 was biological weathering, another process. And 4 was our last feature, the chalk escarpment. I'd now like us to do exactly the same with this here. Pause the video, match up the words below with the numbers. Answers. Scree slope was number 1, that's the pieces of rock broken off as a result of freeze-thaw weathering or the rock falls. Number 2 was freeze-thaw weathering. 3 was our U-shaped valley caused by glacial erosion. And 4 was rock falls. Next challenge, get these in the right order please. A, B, C. Which is before, which is during, and which is after the Ice Age. Pause the video now. So C was before, when we had not a U-shaped valley but a V-shaped valley as the river winds its way through this distinctive V shape. Then along comes the glacier during the Ice Age, and it carves out this U shape here through erosion. And then lastly, this is after, when you end up with a misfit stream, and even you can have a ribbon lake as well. Right, don't get put off by this. When you're making lessons like this, you can't embed videos, so I'm relying heavily on GIFs, animated files. This is the only one I could find. Don't let it put you off. What I'm going to talk you through, and this is essential geography, is how to understand contour lines and what they show. So what I want you to imagine is that you are looking at this mountain from the side, okay? It has pretty much the same gradient on both sides, the same steepness on both sides. I want you to imagine looking at this mountain, and you can see a line going across the mountain. That's 100 meters up in the sky. That's the altitude. That's 200 meters. That's 300, that's 400, that's 500, that's 600. Now what you do is you get in your helicopter. You now fly up above the mountain, you're right directly above the top of the mountain, and you look down onto it. This is what you would see. So if you imagine those lines are still there, this is what you see. This is the very top of the mountain, and this is the bottom. Now what you'll notice about this mountain is that the lines, the contour lines, and contour lines connect places of the same height. So all of these lines, this is 100 meters, this is 200 meters, and so on. What you'll notice about this mountain is that all of the lines are fairly evenly spaced apart from maybe here, okay? I want you to imagine now that you're looking at a mountain instead like that. Incredibly steep up this side, and then quite gentle. The gradient is quite gentle on the way back down. Now imagine you've got your lines. So you draw on your lines 100, 200, 300 meters high, 400, 500, 600 meters high. You get back in your helicopter, you fly above the mountain, you look down on it, and what you're going to see now, watch this. What you notice is that on the side of the mountain that isn't as steep, the lines are really far apart. But on this side of the mountain, which is over here, the lines are really close together. Okay? So we need to know about contour lines in general, but it's a good time to introduce it if you haven't looked at it before. So as a quick test, I'd like you to pause the video and just write down, see if you can match up the side view, which is on the left, with the bird's eye overhead view, including contour lines, on the right. Pause the video now. Here are the answers. So have a go at this. Is this a V-shaped valley or a U-shaped valley? How would you know? Pause the video and see if you can work it out. So the answer is this is a V-shaped valley. The reason we know this is that the lines are more or less evenly spaced apart. So if you were to draw this from the side, the valley would be something like this, and the contour lines would be something like this. They're fairly evenly spaced apart. So is this one a U-shaped valley or a V-shaped valley, and how would you know? Pause the video, have a think. So the answer for this is a U-shaped valley. If you look really carefully, these contour lines are really far apart, whereas these contour lines, particularly up here, are really close together. That means it gets increasingly steep as you go up, okay? Just like the shape of a U-shaped valley. Also, you can see the numbers go up. That is meters above sea level. That's the height. So if you were to look at this side on, it would look something like this. Steep, 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 gentle, gentle, flat, 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 gentle, 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 steep, steep, steep. There you go. I'd like us to now return to the main theme of the lesson, which is how have humans affected the landscape. So I'm going to show you 4 photos, and we're going to do a simple point develop 2-mark question for each of those. Study this photo for a few seconds, pause if you need to. Ask yourself, how have humans affected this landscape? And then please answer this question where you describe one way in which humans have affected this landscape. This is a simple point develop using the evidence that you can see in the photo. So answers we could have got farming or agriculture, you could use that word. And as you can see, humans have marked out fields with walls or fences all the way there, there and there. Okay. Similarly, you could have said farming happens. Well, the farming is actually at the flat part at the bottom of your U-shaped valley. Next, we've got a map showing one way in which humans have affected the landscape, but I'm just going to turn this into a satellite image. And your question, exactly the same. Pause the video. And the answer is forestry, which is where humans have planted artificial rows or lines of trees. I hope that you can recognize that this is not natural. If ever it was, it certainly isn't now. Look at the straight lines running between lines of trees. These have been artificially planted rows of trees. So for this one, we have another Ordnance Survey map, and it shows several ways in which humans have affected the landscape. Please do the same again with this one. And the answers, we've got urban areas, towns, settlements, which have been built next to a river. So here is your point and its development. Similarly, you could have said industry and factories. You might have recognized larger buildings here. These have been set up or built next to the river. And number 4, ask yourself, how have humans affected this landscape? And your question. So the answer, industry or factories have been set up, built next to the coastline. Please make sure that you green pen your answers from the last 4 questions. Give yourselves a mark out of 8 and just go back through and add anything that you missed. So this is our Consolidate quiz. Please write the answers to these questions and then we'll show the answers in a moment. Please ensure that you give yourself a mark out of 8 for the 2 mark questions. There were 4 of them, and ensure that you also green pen your answers. After you've done that, please mark your answers to the quiz that we've just done. The next lesson is going to be factors affecting coastal landscapes. But before we do that, I'd like us to do some extended writing. Even though this is online learning, I still feel that you'll be able to do it. So please look for the next lesson, which will be lesson 5, part 2, which is going to be an 8 mark extended response. Thank you.